Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teatime Truth Talk with your host, Alicia, and my father,
Reverend Rich.
And today we are going to start another topic on something new that I've gotten from a friend of mine as well, who emailed me via text message about a situation that's going on. But before we do that, I know a lot of you are probably looking at me right now wondering why I'm wearing a certain type of sweater. I am one of those people. Since we have begun the month of November, in my case, it is pre-Christmas season. So I decided to wear a sweater today, and I promise I will not be wearing them for the rest of the month until it's closer to Christmas. But I'm that person who likes to celebrate it at the beginning and then so forth and so on. But before we get into our topics,
and as always, we talk about our homework, so make sure that you subscribe, like, share, make sure somebody else that can use this information can hear it, plus hit the bell so you're introduced to any new videos on our channel that come up. Also, if you're listening to this on our podcast, make sure you subscribe to the podcast with every encounter on any of your favorite podcast listening stations. We're also on iHeartRadio as well. So with that, I am not a Christmas person. This is November for me. So I myself will be focusing on the month of November with gratitude. So check out Wisdom Wednesdays and our Meditation Mondays as well.
All right, so let's begin. So the topic today is who can and cannot choose who can be a bad guy. So the situation is, I was dating this guy who had a terrible past. My friends love to talk about how he was a terrible person and that nobody should be his friend because he was a cheater in the past and slept with different girls. But when I mention people who are rude and obnoxious or has talked crap about me or my friends, or who has made fun of other people and bullied them, my friends would just shrug it off and say it was in the past and stay friends with those people. My question is, why is it that certain people can get off the hook for their past, but others must suffer from the consequences, even if they are trying or not trying to change?
Well, we've talked about this before. I mean, first of all, it starts with perspective. You know, you said it yourself. What one person sees one thing as worse than another. So to them, it is more about their perspective on it. So if they see person A did X, Y, Z, but it was in the past, it doesn't real nothing, they thought it was funny, whatever, But the crime of another person is more detrimental, and usually it taps into, or what we call triggers. And what a trigger is, more or less, is something that may have happened in the past or may have been whatever, that a certain action, a word, something just brings it up. And even though they're not mad at the situation, it is more or less that it is bringing up emotions that they don't know how to handle. So immediately they lash out at what's recent. So to me, part of that is that maybe those people, in their intention to label this person, is bringing up something that may have happened to them themselves. So it's something they can look at.
I see. I agree. Also, I also believe for that as well is it depends on the person that we're talking about would also depend on what they did to that certain person, like you said. But in more of a elaborative way is I've also been a part of that where I've lost a lot of friends or let go of a lot of people in the past because they have done something to me that hurt me. But I know people who are still friends with them because it didn't affect them in a way that it should. So they're friends with them because in their mind, it didn't affect them in any way, or that person didn't affect them in any way as well.
I mean, we have that going on now a lot because what happens is we don't ever want to focus on ourselves. And I've spoken about this a lot of times too, is that radical self responsibility. What part did I play in that situation? Well, a lot of people don't want to do that. It's the reason, and I say it again, drama television, Wives of Beverly Hills and all those other drama TVs, or shows like The Bachelorette and The Bachelor and all, because it gives somebody time to practice what's called escapism, or escaping from their lives. So how much easier it is to say, don't look at me, don't look at my dirt, don't look at what I'm doing, look at what he's doing, look at what she's doing, look at somebody else. And and we've talked about this, the biblical passage where, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, where Jesus says, how can you judge the splinter in your brother when you still have the log in your own eye, more or
Yep.
less. And the problem is because we don't want to see what's wrong with us, but it isn't until we understand what's going on with us that we can actually see that. Another thing, and this one really hits home to some people and they don't like to hear this, is that for you to see what's wrong in somebody else, it has to be first inside of you.
Mm. So that's more of saying like what we see in someone else is a reflection, like a mirror sort of what we see of
Right.
ourselves. Okay.
So that's a big thing there. So when we talk about that, so when it comes down to judging someone, I'm a firm believer that no one has the right to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can discern. I mean, if we know that this person is, as a father, if I know this person's involved in things I don't want around my family and all that, I can't judge him for what he's done, but I can definitely discern and say, okay, I'd rather keep him at an arm's distance. If he needs help, call me. We'll figure out how to do it from a different perspective, but I don't want it around my family.
Mm-hmm.
And someone had to teach that to me, judgment versus discernment. And so it's okay to discern that person, say, hey, this is who he was in the past. Another thing comes down to is forgiveness. How can you, do we believe in rehabilitation? Do we believe that the person in the past is always going to be present now? Can we believe that people can change? I'm a firm believer of that.
I am too.
I know I'm not the same person I was at 30 or at 20 or at 15. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. Every day is a new chance to become somebody new.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely a strong believer in that too because it's not even just being a change in better, it can also be a change in worse because I believe that, especially when I was in high school, there were certain people how they acted, but as we grew up and got out of high school, there's a lot of people I've seen that have been able to better themselves
Right.
on top of, I've seen people who've actually gotten worse than how they were, where they were a great person in high school and ended up becoming a total jerk or very low self-esteem and hating themselves and all that stuff out of high school, whereas some people who truly didn't love themselves for who they are love themselves now and are exceeding in life on a whole nother perspective.
Well, again, and I think you said it best. It's, do they understand what love is? Because, in high school, as being a male in high school back in the 80s, it was, you were supposed to be a football player, wrestling. And I was. I was on the football team. I was on the wrestling team. I did martial arts back then, you know. And then when you're thrown out of high school, you've got a whole new life ahead of you.
Oh yeah.
And you're no longer that person to hang out with. You're no longer whatever. And you start leaving those friends that you were comfortable with. So now, you lose and you start getting these challenges of, am I good enough?
Mm.
So, and then this comes into play because when you're talking about judging someone else, when we allow people to judge us, the problem really isn't how they judge us. The problem is how we judge ourselves.
That is true.
And we are our worst critics. So,
I am definitely a victim of that. I've been there where I've judged especially I think high school, which is funny because it's like I am like fresh meat. I mean, I've been out of high school for like 2 years now, but I still feel like I'm still learning the life of being an adult because adulting is gross. I don't know how y'all do it and make it look easy. It is gross, and I've only done it for 2 years. But with high school, I know definitely, especially with, again, like you said, TV drama and all that, the high school mentality, there's a lot of judgment and people hold on to grudges and all that thing and hold on to grudges and hold on to that high school lack mentality of this person's better, this person's not, this person's this person's that. It's hard because I was raised by y'all. So I had the mentality of we're out of high school, let it go, start fresh, start new, which is why, heck, I had people who I didn't like in high school that I am friends with now. People who I'm friends with in high school, I'm not friends with now. But there are people like especially my age group, who still hold on to those grudges and those pasts. How is there a way to let that go? I know it's to start with yourself, but it's also, again, certain people did hurt other people. How do you forgive and let go?
There's a famous minister in Unity, Reverend Eric Butterworth wrote a book. I was actually listening to the audio version of the book today. It was funny. He talked about that. He talked about how people like being sick because it allows them to play victim, which allows them to attract things. So to me, and again, this is a belief, when people hold on to grudges,
Mm-hmm.
when people hold on to that, it's become an identity for themselves. So if I'm mad at Joe, but Sue, Jan, and that agree with me, we're all mad at Joe, I've just created a friendship. I've created something that we can all hold on to. Definitely not the most positive thing to hold on to. Definitely not the most healthiest thing to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that situation. So when I'm holding on to a grudge is because I don't know how to let go. Now, like I said, I could take it deeper into forgiveness because one of the things I learned is that a lot of times I say I've forgiven something, but then that past will creep up and create an anger situation in me. And I realize that it's that I haven't forgiven it completely and I'm still attached to that outcome. I have to let go of that outcome, or as they say, true forgiveness is when you can look back at any situation and not have any emotional attachment to it. So if you can look back at them grudges and say, okay, it's gone, it's done, whatever, move on, then you've done your forgiveness work. Now you can let go of that. It's no longer part of your identity, and you don't have to be that person. Basically the clique that hates the person. Why?
Mm-hmm.
We want to move on. This person, again, has a chance to improve. In high school, everybody's going through things. They're trying to, you know, live up to somebody's standard. We have the king queens of the prom. We have, the homecoming this. We have whatever, and that was, the problem because a lot of times people strive to be that person. And if they don't hit that mark, they feel like a failure because everybody told them that that's what they're supposed to be or that's what they should be. Like in Unity, we say you got to stop shoulding on yourself. you know, so a lot of times that's what it is. And especially in high school, going into college, you could be the most popular guy or the strongest guy or the big guy in high school, walk into a brand new college and you're nobody. Now your identity has been stripped and you're like, what do I do now? Because you're living for an identity that truly was not yours.
That is true. Actually, that's a good thing that you said that about the forgiveness and finally letting go because that means I've done my part. Because in high school, I was in the middle of this. I was in the middle of a whole bunch of drama. I just kind of sat and it kind of found me. But I actually did not like this one female for the longest time in high school, and I just truly did not like her. But I actually saw her at when I was going to LCCC. I saw her, and it was like when I saw her in high school, it was I hate her, I hate her, I hate her. But when I saw her in college, it was just kind of like, oh, that's a person I know in high school. And then it's like at that moment, it's like I don't hold that grudge anymore, or I don't feel that hate anymore. I officially, finally let that go. And I was just like, huh.
Yeah.
So what you people say is true. It's like it's that moment of clarity where you're like, oh, I get it. So yeah, I can understand that completely.
And sometimes it is you don't even remember what you were mad about or why the grudge was there.
That is also
And
true.
then you can go into what's called communal or community thought, which is everybody's mad at somebody because somebody in the group is mad, so everybody needs to be mad.
Mm-hmm.
But then half the people in the group are like, okay, we're mad at them, but we don't know why.
We have no idea why we're mad at them.
Right.
But yeah, I think that answered the question. We went and covered a lot of topics today. So I hope that answered your question. To sum it up, with the whole situation with your boyfriend, people pick and choose and go in different directions of who is a bad guy, who isn't. Again, a lot of it is more of the fact that people who blame others is, again, like you said, a reflection of themselves. So by working on themselves, they can potentially see people. And on top of that, people can change. Because I have experienced that where people who were terrible in the past became this really sweet and amazing person in the future because they took the time to do better for themselves. A good friend of mine who was a troublemaker in high school, he said this once to me that he's like, now that I'm out of high school and I have a job and I'm doing better, I'm working on me. I'm trying to work and focus on me so I can have a better life. And I thought that was perfect because, again, he was that type of person who was causing problems, not doing the schoolwork, all that other stuff. But now he's truly focused on himself and is becoming a better person. Does it take time? Of course, because, old habits die hard. But he is working on himself, and I am truly proud of him for that. So, again, I wouldn't take it to heart what they say about the person you dated, because, again, beggars can't be choosers. People have their own opinions. People have their own judgments and things. You judge that person based on how you see them. And if you believe they can change, then help them along with it or encourage them to do better. You always want positive people in your life as it is. So again, just judge based on how you see things. And don't always listen to what other people are saying. Again, we also covered that in another episode where we talk about how people try to help people by giving their opinions. You can acknowledge their opinions, but if it's not an opinion that truly fits the situation, you don't have to listen to it. But yes, just remember that, summing it up again, just remember that opinions will come and go, but judge based on how you feel internally for that person. I hope that helps. I want to thank you guys again for listening in and watching. Again, do your homework, subscribe, hit the bell, and we will see you on our next episode.